I've been very honest in different spaces. For me, I think I stepped into sales with the vision of like, all right, I want to become a CEO of something, whether it's something I've started or something I'm taking over. And it's interesting because like Women in Sales Club, like I'm having that experience right now. I don't think I ever thought about, oh, I'm going to be a BDR leader and a BDR manager. So for me, like that, the vision that I have for myself is like continue to work up the ranks, right, at companies. And also, I think for as long as, there's an opportunity to have these conversations to help, whether it's like helping women find better companies to work for, helping leaders, better support women in the sales force, like driving meaningful change, like that's something I'm gonna be committed to always.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the Sales Enablement Podcast. I'm your host, Andy Paul. That was Gabrielle Blackwell. Gabrielle is the Business Development Manager for Strategic at Airtable and co-founder of the Women in Sales Club. In our conversation today, Gabrielle and I, we talk about a wide range of topics. We start by exploring her unique journey into the sales profession, into the sales world, by way of perhaps of a detour in Paris, France, and then we dive into a rapid rise into a management position and explore what have been the biggest challenges for her in this role. We'll also talk about the mission of her new venture, the Women in Sales Club, which is an organization focused on enabling, empowering, and promoting women within the sales profession. We get into all of this and much, much more, but before we get to Gabrielle, I want to remind you to subscribe to this podcast, wherever you listen to it. And also want to remind you to check out my latest book, Sell Without Selling Out. It's a modern, human-centric framework for increasing your win rates and shortening decision cycles without using the salesy behaviors that your buyers really dislike. Books available everywhere. You shop for books, online, and in stores. All right, let's jump into it with Gabrielle. Gabrielle, welcome to the show.
Hi, Andy. Thanks for having me.
A pleasure to have you here. So where are you joining us from?
I am joining from Austin, Texas, currently at the office. So yeah,
Yes.
That's where I am. Yes.
The office.
In
Wow.
the office.
I'm not sure I've talked to anybody in the last 2 years actually in the office. It's like first.
No, listen, somebody's got to set a precedent.
And so what's happening in your office? I mean, tell us who you work for and what you do, and then let's talk about your office.
Yes. So I work for Airtable, so a connected apps platform, and I am the business development manager for strategic accounts. So I have a team of a whopping 11 people who are out there outbound prospecting into some of the biggest companies in the world. So that is what I do on a day-to-day basis.
And so, that's a good sized team. So We'll get back to that, but in terms of the office policy, what's Airtable's policy?
So right now we have an office that's open on a volunteer basis. We do have a return to work plan scheduled for next month. We're going to see what happens because
COVID, the rising caseloads, I think, are going to have something to say.
Yeah. So COVID has a funny way of saying that's a cute plan that you have there. Let me ruin it. That being said, right at the moment, it's being considered. It's being considered by a return to work team. Yeah. But let's just say potentially we come into the office, we'll be starting June 6th, and we'll have the team be in here part-time. So it'll be a hybrid model between working from the office and working from home.
So your sales team are all located in the Austin area?
We have part of our sales team. So the commercial and large team is based out of Austin. So we have the strategic team. They can be remote or in other areas of the country. So this looks like, our business development, sales development program, parts of our CS organization, as well as parts of our new biz and growth AE organization too.
Got it. Yeah. I'd spoken at an event last week. I mean, just so the impact of COVID is, and this company, everybody has to show proof of vaccination, double vaccination, so on, just to get into the offices. And there was a group of like 40 people, and nonetheless.
There's a lot of protocols, that we have to meet 100%.
Right. Then I get an email this week from the company saying, oh, by the way, I just want to let you know that a bunch of the people that were in this meeting tested positive.
Yes.
It's like,
Yes. Yeah, it's
not me
not
though.
great. Not great. No, that's good. Well, I'm glad that you are all good.
Yeah, well, it was sort of strange. I hadn't like shaken as many hands in like literally 2 years and within a period of time, and been in close proximity to people
Yeah.
and yeah, being in a closed room with 40, 50 people. I mean, it was fun, but it was, sort of kind of freaky on the other hand too. I mean, it's just
Yes.
such a change from what we've been doing.
I was gonna ask. I was having a conversation earlier today. We were talking about, hey, return to work. What do you all see as being really excited? Like, what are some of
Mhm.
the things that we should be mindful of? And we had quarterly business reviews a couple weeks ago where there was a big number of people coming into the office, and it's like the energy is amazing and it's wonderful. And we come back the next week and you realized, wow, I have not done this much socialization
Yeah.
in 2 years.
Yeah.
Whoa, I am not conditioned for this yet. So it's like it's amazing and interesting, and also I'm slightly introverted. So I'm like, I
Yeah. Me
need to
too.
go recharge for 3 or 4 days. Uh, I'll be in the office on Wednesday.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's a change. So I know a lot of people went out, doing speaking in person and so on. But yeah, for me, that was the first one. It was like, yeah, very interesting. So, well, I wanted to ask you something. So you have a very interesting background. One thing that I wanted to explore is you went to school at the Sorbonne in Paris,
I'm
which is like the Sorbonne being like, I'd call it like the Stanford of France.
no, is it?
Yeah,
Is
wouldn't you
it?
think?
I don't
It's sort of
know.
an elite school, isn't it?
Potentially. So there is Sciences Po, which is stated as the Harvard of France.
Ah, well,
I took.
I went to Stanford, so I call it the Stanford. I mean, anyway,
Okay, cool. Yeah, and
Harvard,
I went to
second rate.
Chicago. We're in a league of our own.
Hmm.
Yeah. So we're the Ivy League loner, I'll call it. But no. So I went to La Sorbonne. I took a French class there while I lived in Paris for a couple of years. I was an au pair for a little bit. So
An au pair.
in order for me to have my au pair student visa be valid, I had to be in school. So I took a class.
Really?
Yes.
So what sort of family were you au pairing for?
What sort of family was I au pairing for?
Yeah,
I au paired for two families
French
during the time.
families.
Two French families, yes. So I had graduated college and kind of knew I didn't want to get into work right away, but figured how can I do something during this
Right.
interesting time of being an adult, but not really.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I started looking at, I had known people who I went to school with who had done the au pair experience. So I thought it'd be great to
Really
go there and
interesting.
learn French. And I, even as like a young child, I was very interested in French culture, and I'd
Hmm.
even have my mom buy me audio tapes or like audio cassettes
Hmm.
to learn
Learn the
French.
language.
Yeah, so I wanted to go there. So the first family that I had didn't work out. Second family I had didn't work out very well either. I come to find out, au pairing with some families a little bit like indentured servitude, and
Hmm.
you are fully and completely kind of bound to this family, and that did not work for me very well. So, uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so I ended up.
What was the worst thing that they asked you to do?
Ooh, the worst thing. Honest. So at the time I was 22 years old. The first family, the mother tried to enforce a curfew on me.
Hmm.
I was like, no, absolutely not. So I and was trying to say that my weekends were not mine. I'm like, no, that's not
Hmm.
the contract that we signed.
Right.
And then she became kind of menacing and kind of threatening a bit. So I'm like, okay, I'll just leave. That's no worries.
Yeah.
Um, but the worst thing that happened, the second family, there was two kids. One was about to turn 14 years old. One was 8. And the 14-year-old, I think he had some behavioral challenges that were there, but my last day included him pulling a knife on me and trying to attack me. So that
In the
was my
house.
in the
In the
house.
house.
In the house. So
Oh
yes.
wow.
Yes. So I was like, I'm leaving and I'm never
Hmm.
coming back, and you all should pay me money to not file a police report against your son.
Right.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
Welcome
But
to the podcast, y'all.
yeah, really. I mean, yeah, never had a customer pull a knife on me.
No, nope. I was like, I don't think this is the line of work that I need to be in.
I mean, I've had uh, random gunshot in my direction on a sales
What?
call. But
On a sales call.
well, when I was working in San Francisco Bay Area, I was doing a ride along with one of my sellers, and we had gone to a call in a warehouse district, and as we left the call and got in the car, we heard what sounded like a gunshot,
Wow.
and yeah, it hit the hit the as some random shot. It hit the front quarter panel on the side of the car that my
Oh
salesperson
my
was on.
gosh. Talk about what is
And my
occupational hazards.
yeah, and yeah, my first reaction was, or typical for me, was like, I didn't think the call went that badly.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
but yeah, well, I said no knife up close and personal. So how do you get your way from Paris then to being in sales?
Ooh, great question. So there's an even longer story where I continued to live in France.
Okay.
Not everybody knows this, but I was married to a Frenchman,
Uh,
and
oh,
so I thought I was going to
now
be
we
in
know.
Paris. Now we know it's out there. So I thought I was going to be in Paris for a very long time,
Right.
and I had ideas of how I was going to make life work over there. And then I
Sure.
had to take a very hard pivot when I realized I needed to leave everything that I had kind of been building towards. And so I came back to Chicago, where I'm from, and I had
Solo.
solo. Yes, I
So
left my
he's
ex-husband. Yes.
yeah.
So
No knives involved though.
no knives involved. No
Okay,
knives
perfect.
involved on that one. He might have thrown a croissant. I don't know, but no knives. But no, I came back to the U.S. All I had with me was like a backpack, a medium-sized suitcase. Half of it was filled with books and my dog. And so uh, at that point in time, this is 2015. I thought I was going to be going into more so like HR people side of the business. So like
Hmm.
recruiting people off, something along those lines. A lot of the folks in my family took that trajectory.
Right.
And for whatever reason it was, they didn't ever want to bring me to the second interview. So I had to take another hard pivot and really thought about where I wanted to see my career going. And as I kind of built out this vision for myself, I'm like, all I know is that at some point in time, I want to be leading a company. And
Right.
like, where do like CEOs start their careers often? And had whittled it down to like finance and sales. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I don't really feel like just being in spreadsheets all day long, even though that's what I do now as a manager, but I can go talk to people. So
Right.
I was like, I'm gonna go start off in sales as my first step forward to being a CEO. So yeah, that's how I got in it.
And who were you selling for, and what were you selling?
I was working at a company called CloudWords, and this is 2015. So it was a translation management software. So it just like the whole process of figuring out, like, all right, we're going to take one piece of marketing content in English, and we need
Hmm.
to get it out into four other languages and localize it to the region. You come to
Right.
find out it's a really, really hard and difficult, cumbersome process.
Right.
So our solution made it just like way easier and faster to get all that stuff done. So that's what I was selling. I was selling into like Fortune 100 companies.
Hmm.
My territory was like all the entire like East Coast, like Upper East Coast. So like all the big, that was like best territory, and
Right.
some European countries as well. So yeah, that's how I got started.
Based in Chicago.
Yeah, so it was a San Francisco company with a satellite office in Chicago.
Got it. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, you took your liberal arts major. You were public policy, right?
Yeah, my public policy
Okay.
analysis major. This
Yeah.
is how I sold it. I go, listen, public policy analysis is simply solving problems within the context of local and state government. And it taught
Hmm.
me how to problem solve, and that's what I'm here to do today in sales. So yeah,
Wow.
that was
Okay.
my yeah.
Well, a much more sophisticated argument for why they should hire you than I had with my history degree, which was
I
I
remember
had no idea.
it took me 3 weeks of interviewing to realize I was like, I really need to lock down a pitch for myself to make myself an attractive candidate for these companies. So once I had it down, I was ready to go.
Yeah, for me, it was my first job was I don't know, I took a sort of a personal challenge because the ultimate hiring manager, I've told the story of my first interview, which was like a 1 minute interview, which was, well, the sale, I'll repeat it. People may, if you've heard it before and you're listening to the show, just cover your ears for a minute. But so I get this interview scheduled. It's a company called Burroughs and big computer company, second largest computer company in the world at that time. And for a branch office in Oakland, California. And I show up for the interview and I'm greeted by the sales manager who's basically says hi and takes me to a conference room, opens his portfolio notebook in front of him. And now the job was ultimately to be selling computer systems for, ERP type applications, selling into the construction industry. And I did not expect him. So we had to know accounting. And I'd taken accounting in school and done pretty well, but I was not expecting his first question out of his mouth to be an accounting question. And I froze. just froze completely. And finally, after what seemed like forever, I said to him, I know the answer to this question. You saw it. You have my transcript. I took accounting, but I just, you caught me off guard. I can't summon the answer. Can I, research tonight when I get home, and I'll call you tomorrow with the answer. And with that, he stood up and left the room. And I'm like, oh shit!
What just happened?
Well, actually, my first reaction was, what am I going to tell my parents about what happened at the interview? Right? And and then, a few minutes later, this other gentleman shows up. He goes, hey, I'm Brian. I'm the branch manager. Ray, who I was just talking to, who I never really talked to. Ray works for me. He says, Ray told me he wants to hire you. And so, a great lesson learned early in your career, which is, don't try to bullshit, right? Just tell the truth, come clean if you don't know something, admit it, say you'll get the answer, get back to them. But Brian, he had never hired anybody who didn't have an undergraduate business degree. And I was a history major. So that was my big obstacle with him is, why should he hire somebody who did not have a business degree? So he made it very clear to me that he was taking a big chance. So
yeah.
It worked out for him. So anyway,
it seems to work out for you as well. Look at you now.
Yeah. Look at that. So, well, you similarly. I mean, as I got promoted relatively quickly into management, sounds like you did as well.
I did. Yes.
So why? What was happening? What besides performance? I mean, what was about that first sales job that?
So my history has been interesting because I started that first job at CloudWords in 2015, April 2015, and by February of 2016, like the SDR team had been eliminated, basically. Oh. So I'd done really well, and then it's like, we're not going to invest in this program anymore, and everybody's gone.
Right.
So, and then I moved to another company. Started off as a SDR and then quickly got promoted to an AE position in 3 months. The leadership that I had worked with at CloudWords went over and was new leadership at this new company. So they're like, hey, like we know what you can do. And I struggled mightily as an AE for the first, like the 90% of my first quarter, and somehow managed to pull out 193% of my number in the last like week and a half of the quarter, right? Amazing. Number one on my team. Like I come back kid. 2 days later after the quarter ends, come to find out that my position alongside of 72 other people had been eliminated.
Wait. Okay.
Yeah.
So your position was eliminated at CloudWords.
Yep.
And then you go to this new company and they eliminated your position then.
Yeah. 6 months after I started at the company.
Got
Yep.
it.
Yeah, CloudWords a position was eliminated like February or March of 2016. The next company was Act On Software,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, and so I had been promoted. They moved me out to Portland, Oregon, in June of 2016, and then my position had been eliminated in October. So like that was not great. And then I ended up joining a new company called Cloudability, and I basically, I don't know, I was a little bit like, man, this is not great to have done so well performance
Mhm.
wise, like figure it out, do so well, and get eliminated. And at the time, I
Right.
don't think I realized that it was kind of out of my control.
Right. Right.
But I was like, what companies are growing, what in Portland, like which companies are serving an industry or customer base that's going to explode as well. And so
Mhm.
Cloudability is a cost management solution specifically for AWS and Azure
Got
users.
it.
So I'm like,
Okay.
cloud is going to blow up.
Right.
Might as well join and just trust that as the company grows, I'll have opportunities. So I joined the company at like employee number 50 or 60, something like that, as an SDR. And a new VP of sales started 2 or 3 weeks after I did. And I was like, you, sir, and I are going to be best friends, okay? And 2 months later, they posted a job for a BDR manager. And I had already let them know, I'm like, hey, listen, I know what it's like to
Right.
build a BDR team, or I've been a part of a pioneering like BDR team and did really well, was very instrumental, did my whole spiel there. The position gets put up, nobody comes knocking at my door, knocking at my desk, then I have to message the VP of sales like, hey, remember this conversation we had? By the way, here's my track record. How can I help you?
Mhm.
Like, it was simple as that. I was just like, hey, I'm trying to figure out how can I help? He gave me a shot. I presented an entire business plan and I got the job as a BDR manager. And that was February of 2017.
Right.
So yeah, I hadn't even been in sales for a full on 2 years before I got moved into management.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you said you wanted to stick with the sales development side as opposed to going back to AE?
Ooh, I did not enjoy being an AE. Granted, there was a series of very traumatic events that
Sure.
happened. More importantly, though, because I mean, these are the things that I think about quite a bit, which is where do I want to see my career going?
Mhm.
I really do, for me, it's what I really like is being able to, when someone is like very early on in their careers, because it's like, this is where I was at. I was like, I had to choose, like, what do I want to do with my days and, like, let's say
Right.
my life, right? I'm going to be in a career for 20, 30 years and I want to enjoy it. I want to thrive in it. I don't want to just be somebody who's like punching in, punching out, miserable.
Yep.
And I made a very thoughtful and intentional choice. And like over the years, I feel like I've been very blessed and fortunate to do what I love to do, which is managing BDRs and SDRs.
Right.
I want to move up in SDR, BDR leadership, but I'm like, I feel like the group of folks that we have who are coming into sales, like, I'm like, one, they're going through a very interesting experience, like an initiation of sorts. So I
Very
kind of
much
see
so.
myself as like a shepherd, a
Mhm.
guard of that, which is one, we're going to set a standard of professionalism, a standard of performance, but also a standard of here's how you take care of yourself as a salesperson in this career, right? And then I think
Well,
about the long
so
term.
let's explore that. So
Yeah.
what's entailed with looking after themselves in this career?
Um, so in terms of looking after themselves, here's where I feel like SaaS sales or sales in general, like I think here's where we can be much better is really demonstrating a level of leadership that raises the standard of sales. And what I mean by this is like pivoting away from smile and dial, treating people like resources that are
Mhm.
easily can be easily tossed out.
Right.
Even though that exists, like we don't need to let people know that. I know what it's like to have a leader who truly cared about me as a person and as
Mhm.
a professional, and them caring
Mhm.
about me as a person made me want to be a better professional. I
Right.
think a lot of times we treat people like, I've seen it many times, like people treat their people like dogs
Yeah.
versus people. And I'm like, this is not how we motivate. This is not how we incentivize. This is how we burn people out. So I think I've seen it across, I've worked at a lot of companies. So I'm like, I've seen a lot of like dysfunction in organizations in that way. But I also think about for myself, I'm aware of the dysfunction that I have had in my life because I thought I had to be the person who was always on, who always said yes, who always, like I can never do enough. And I know how catastrophic that was for me over time.
Right.
So when I think about like, what does this mean for me now? It's much more about, I really want to understand like my own values, what's important to me, what's going to bring me joy. And that's also like that wisdom that I gained, I give that back to my team, right? Everyone on my team, I'm like, hey, it's not just about making money all the time. Like, sure, that'll come, but also what are the things, like, what are your boundaries? Yeah.
Well, what do you
Like,
value? What do you want to
value?
achieve?
Yeah. Like,
Outside of work.
Outside of work. Yeah. It's like, cool. Like, great, wonderful. Like, what are your goals in life in general? And also like, let's think about long-term too, right? Like two to three, not even like 3 to 5 years from now, but 2 to 3 positions from now, where do you want to go? Like, let's have those kinds of conversations as well. But also like, and what are the standards that you want to hold for your career too?
Yeah, it's a good way to put it though. I like the way you said it's not, don't denominate it in years, but say in positions.
Yes. So I got that from a
really.
mentor. Yeah. That's not my
I like
original
that.
question. So, I also think about in terms of, for me, I joke around with my team where I'm like, listen, y'all, I am a millennial Black woman with a very loud mouth. So like I go into places and like not every place and not every space is going to be hospitable to me. Like that's just it, that's a thing.
Right.
So I also think about, all right, I have my experiences of being on the receiving end of discrimination and harassment and hostility and all of that in the workplace.
Right.
And I think about everybody who's on my team or who's been on my team. I'm like, these are the future leaders of sales. Like this is the next generation of sales. So I also think of like this initiation piece is we get to set a model of like, hey, here's how we operate. Here's how we develop belonging. Like this is how we hold each other accountable to a higher standard in the way that we behave and the way that we talk and the way that we make space for others too. And I'm like, and hopefully like the long-term impact is like, again, like sales becomes much more inclusive and accepting and is a place where like anybody and everybody can succeed. Like we can kind of have this aspirational sales as a meritocracy piece. Like even though we're not there yet, it's an aspiration. So I also try and instill a lot of those values. And it's like right when people are entering in. So I'm like, if you know that this is what you can have, like take the time to appreciate what you like, recognize what you don't like, but also you're not going to work for this company or for me forever. But when you're going to also kind of have like a BS like detector. So like you'll also steer clear of nonsensical places. I'm like, and this to me, like if you go to better places, top talent's going to better places have better leaders equals more inclusive, diverse, whatever else it is. I'm like, this is how I think we can shift things in the long term. So that's why I like being here.
I like that. Well, tell us a little bit about the Women in Sales Club that you started.
Yes. Okay. So Women in Sales Club co-founded this alongside my business partner, Alexine Moudouar, who's a strategic AE at Alice. It was, so last year in January, started off on Clubhouse. And really the inception, the origins of it are Alexine and I were having a conversation and we were both just talking about our experiences of being like the one or the only on a sales floor. For Alexine, she's like, she had shared that she was pretty much been the only woman on the sales floor. For me, it had always been like the only Black person or the only Black woman. And as we were talking, we're like, we want to have more conversations about this. Like, not just to support each other as women, not just, we don't just have a support group and it stays in an echo chamber, but we also want to have conversations that allow anyone and everyone, regardless of gender, to listen in, to learn, and hopefully this, again, is going to be another lever that can be used to make places better for anyone and everyone. So like that's how it started. And so like every Saturday we'd be on Clubhouse for 2 hours, just chit chatting about all these different topics, everything from being the one or the only to like maternity policies to how do you like get mentorship, like whatever else it is. And so since then have turn this company into an LLC, which is really cool. Like have companies who are supporting us as well, and like hosting events and webinars, and we've launched a monthly, like, what is it, Women in Sales Club Wednesdays. And so we have a special guest, Sholly Reed, who's going to be coming in. Devin Reed's wife is going to come and chat with us.
Got it.
Really a lot about imposter syndrome. So like a lot of good work to, I think, provide people hopefully with content and information that helps them make better choices for themselves, but also for people who want to be allies or change agents, like giving them the awareness of, hey, like what can be changed and how
Right.
can they help.
Interesting. So
Yeah.
events that you're doing right now, other than, I mean, are you doing webinars or in-person events
Yes.
or?
So we're actually going to be doing one of our first in-person events. It's going to be coming up. So I need to remember what the date is for mine, but there's going to be a dinner in Chicago that's going to be co-hosted with Chili Piper next week. And then there's going to be one in Austin next
Got it.
month. So that'll be our first live event that we're doing. But no, a lot of the events have been either kind of like co-sponsored or co-marketed with some of our sponsors, where we're getting into like the tactics of things. But then we have a monthly like virtual. It's not even a webinar because people can come up stage and like chat
Right.
with us. So
Clubhouse
yeah,
still.
yeah, but it's like we run it through Goldcast. So
Okay. Got
yep. So it's a little bit a mini conference, a little seminar on Wednesdays.
So you started a company. So what do you see as sort of like the long-term vision for what you're doing there? Is this could be your career?
Ooh, I've been very honest in different spaces. For me, I think I stepped into sales with the vision of like, all right, I want to become a CEO of something, whether it's something I've started or something I'm taking over. And it's interesting because like Women in Sales Club, like I'm having that experience right now. I don't think I ever thought about, I'm going to be a BDR leader and a BDR manager. So for me, like that, the vision that I have for myself is like continue to work up the ranks, right. At companies. And also, I think for as long as, there's an opportunity to have these conversations to help, whether it's like helping women find better companies to work for, helping leaders, better support women in the sales force, like driving meaningful change, like that's something I'm gonna be committed to always.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Gabrielle, we've run out of time, but thank you so much for joining me. I mean, the backstory that people don't know is I think we meant to record this a week ago, but we ended up talking instead.
We did.
which was great. So if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to do that?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best way. Gabrielle GB Blackwell.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we'll do this again soon.
All right, awesome.
Okay, friends, that's it for this episode. First of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I am so grateful for your support of the show. And I want to thank my guest, Gabrielle Blackwell, for sharing her insights with us today. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, Sales Enablement with Andy Paul, on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you could also leave us a rating or review, let us know how we're doing. Well, we'd certainly appreciate that. You can do all that on your phone in less than a minute as soon as this episode is over. So thank you for your help, and thank you so much for investing your time with me today. Until next time, I'm your host, Andy Paul. Good selling, everyone.